The alien ship floated in the dark space between Earth and Mars. It was huge, bigger than any building humans had ever made. The ship looked like a crystal flower, with smooth curves and soft lights that changed colors. Inside, Ambassador Kithara walked through the long halls with excitement in her heart. Keith quote, Ara was tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue water and eyes that glowed softly. She belonged to the Zelani Republic, a peaceful group of beings who had not fought wars for over 1,000 years. Today was special. Today they would meet humans for the first time. The human ship is coming, said her assistant, a small creature with 6 arms and a voice like singing bells. They will be here soon. Kethera nodded and smoothed her flowing robes. Around her, other aliens prepared for the meeting. There was Commander Zix from the Vrix Empire, who looked like a giant ant, but moved with grace. Next to him stood Crystal Singer, Tone from the Ethan Collective, whose body was made of living gems that made soft music when she moved. All of these aliens came from worlds where fighting had ended long ago. They had studied many species across the galaxy, and most eventually learned to live in peace. Violence, they believed, was just a phase that young species went through. Smart beings always grew out of it. The human ship appeared on their screens. It was much smaller than the alien vessel, made of metal and painted white with blue markings. The name USS Liberty was written on its side in simple letters. Look how plain it is, whispered one of the alien scientists. No weapons visible, no armor plating. They truly have moved beyond war. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, checking his uniform one more time. He was a calm man in his 40s, with gray starting to show in his brown hair. Behind him, Marine Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez watched the alien ship grow larger. On their screens, Rodriguez was shorter than the captain, with dark hair pulled back tight and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore the dress uniform of the United States Marine Corps, with ribbons that showed she had served in many places around the world. Next to her stood 5 other Marines, all trying to look their best for this historic moment. Remember, Captain, Morrison said to his crew, this is peaceful contact. We represent all of humanity today. Dr. Carter will do most of the talking about science. I'll handle the diplomatic parts. Marines, you're here for ceremony and to show respect. Dr. Alex. Carter adjusted his tie nervously. He was young for such an important job, only 32, but he knew more about alien life than almost anyone on Earth. His laptop held thousands of files about human culture, art, and science to share with their new friends. The 2 ships connected with a soft bump. Airlocks opened, and humans stepped into the alien vessel for the first time. The aliens had prepared a beautiful room for the meeting, with walls that showed peaceful scenes from different worlds. Soft music played, and the air smelled like flowers. Welcome, humans of Earth, Ambassador Kithara said in perfect English. Her voice was like water flowing over stones. We greet you with joy and peace. Captain Morrison stepped forward and bowed slightly. Thank you for this honor, Ambassador. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn from each other. The aliens looked at the humans with curiosity and growing happiness. The humans seemed so calm, so polite. Even their military people stood quietly, making no threatening moves. Rodriguez noticed how the aliens relaxed when they saw the Marines just standing at attention, hands at their sides. Dr. Carter began showing pictures and videos of Earth. He shared images of cities full of gardens, children playing in parks, and artists creating beautiful things. The aliens watched with growing excitement. Here was proof that another species had learned to live without violence. Your world is so beautiful, said Crystal Singer Tone, her gem body chiming softly. We see no military bases, no weapons factories. You have truly evolved beyond your primitive past. Captain Morrison opened his mouth to correct this, but Dr. Carter quickly showed more pictures of human art and music. The aliens loved everything. They saw paintings, sculptures, symphonies, and books filled their screens. Each new example made them more certain that humans were perfect candidates for their peaceful alliance. Commander Zix leaned forward with interest. Tell us about your government. How do you solve problems between different groups of humans? We talk, we vote, we make agreements, Dr. Carter explained. Different countries work together through organizations like the United Nations. The aliens nodded with approval. They had seen this pattern many times. Young species started with fighting, then learned to talk instead of fight. It was the natural way of all intelligent life. Sergeant Rodriguez shifted slightly, feeling uncomfortable. She had served in places where talking hadn't been enough. She had seen what happened when agreements broke down. But this wasn't her job today. Her job was to stand quietly and look professional. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens asked questions about human philosophy, art, and daily life. They were especially interested in human families and how parents taught children to be peaceful. Dr. Carter showed them videos of schools where children learned to share and work together. Remarkable, Ambassador Kithara said finally. In just a few thousand years, your species has completely eliminated warfare. This is the fastest transformation we have ever seen. Captain Morrison started to speak again, but the ambassador continued with excitement in her voice. We would like to invite humanity to join the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. 23 species have already joined our alliance of evolved civilizations. You would be the 24th, and perhaps the most impressive example of how quickly a species can change. The humans looked at each other. This wasn't what they had expected. The aliens seemed to have decided that humans were completely peaceful based on a few hours of looking at art and family pictures. Rodriguez caught Captain Morrison's eye and gave him a small worried look. Something was wrong here. The aliens didn't understand humans at all. But before anyone could say anything, Ambassador Kithara was already talking about celebration ceremonies and integration protocols. The first day of contact was ending, and it was clear that humanity had made a strong impression. Unfortunately, it was completely the wrong impression. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and the alien ship had moved closer to Earth. Every day brought new meetings, new cultural exchanges, and deeper misunderstandings. The aliens grew more excited about humanity with each passing day, while the humans grew more worried about the aliens' wrong ideas. Dr. Maya Johnson had joined the team from Earth. She was an expert in human culture and history, with kind eyes and a gentle way of speaking. The aliens loved her immediately because she seemed to prove everything they believed about peaceful human nature. Today I want to show you human philosophy, Dr. Johnson said to the gathered aliens. She had prepared a presentation about great human thinkers who promoted peace and understanding. Ambassador Kithara leaned forward with interest. Around the room, other alien delegates took notes on their strange devices. Commander Zix's antenna twitched with excitement, while Crystal Singer Tone's body played soft, happy music. Dr. Johnson showed them quotes from Gandhi about nonviolence. She shared Martin Luther King's dream of people living together in harmony. She talked about Buddhist teachings of compassion and Christian ideas about loving your enemies. The aliens absorbed every word like hungry students. See how your greatest minds all reach the same conclusion, Ambassador Kithara said with satisfaction. Violence is wrong. Peace is the only way, and love conquers all. These are universal truths that all evolved species discover. Professor Bill Turner nodded along as he prepared his own presentation. He was older than Dr. Johnson, with white hair and a grandfather's smile. The aliens had requested to see normal human life, so he had brought videos of human cities and families. The screen filled with images of children walking to school, families having picnics in parks, and people shopping in peaceful markets. The aliens watched with growing joy as they saw humans living quiet, normal lives without any signs of conflict or military presence. Your cities are so calm, observed a new alien visitor, Ambassador Vex from the Harmony Council. His people looked like floating jellyfish made of light, and his voice sounded like wind chimes. We see no soldiers, no weapons, no signs of preparation for war. Professor Turner smiled. Most humans just want to live peaceful lives with their families. They work, they play, they enjoy simple pleasures. This was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. The aliens didn't see the military bases that were far from cities. They didn't understand that human police carried weapons. They missed the fact that human news often talked about conflicts happening in other parts of the world. Captain Morrison sat in the back of the room. feeling more uncomfortable with each passing day. Next to him, Sergeant Rodriguez watched the alien reactions with growing concern. The Marines had been ordered to stay quiet during these cultural presentations, but Rodriguez could see disaster approaching. The alien delegates began discussing their plans for humanity. They spoke openly in front of the humans, not realizing how their words might sound. The Peaceful Worlds Coalition has been looking for a new success story, Commander Zix explained to his fellow aliens. Humanity could be perfect. They transformed, from primitive warriors to complete pacifists in record time. Crystal Singer Tone agreed with musical tones. We could use them as an example to show other young species. If humans can eliminate violence so quickly, anyone can. Ambassador Vex floated higher with excitement. I propose we accelerate the integration process. Usually we study a species for years before offering membership, but humans are so obviously peaceful that we can skip most of the evaluation period. The aliens began making plans right in front of the humans. They would write papers about human evolution. They would invite human philosophers to speak at galactic conferences. They would use humanity as proof that their peaceful alliance was the natural destination for all intelligent life. Dr. Johnson looked worried as she listened to these plans. She tried to interrupt politely. Perhaps you should know more about our history before making these decisions. Oh, we've studied your history, Ambassador Cathara said with a dismissive wave. Wars, conflicts, violence, all in your distant past. What matters is what you've become, not what you used to be. Professor Turner tried a different approach. Some parts of our world still have problems. Not all humans have learned to live peacefully yet. The aliens responded with understanding nods and sympathetic sounds. Of course, some humans hadn't evolved yet. Every species had individuals who were slow to change. The important thing was that humanity as a whole had clearly moved beyond violence. Don't worry, Commander Zix said kindly. Once you join our alliance, we can help educate the few remaining primitive humans. We have excellent programs for teaching peace to backward populations. Sergeant Rodriguez felt her jaw tighten at being called backward, but she kept her face calm. Captain Morrison noticed her reaction and gave her a warning look. This wasn't the time or place to correct the aliens' mistakes. The cultural exchange continued with more presentations about human art, music, and literature. The aliens especially loved human stories about heroes who solved problems without violence. They completely ignored human stories about war, adventure, or conflict, dismissing them as primitive entertainment that would naturally disappear as humanity continued to evolve. Dr. Johnson showed them classical music, and the aliens marveled at the beauty and complexity. Professor Turner shared human poetry about love and nature, which made Crystal Singer Tone play the most beautiful melodies her body had ever created. Your artists have such pure souls, Ambassador Vex observed. Only a truly peaceful species could create such beauty. What the aliens didn't understand was that many of humanity's greatest artists had lived through wars, conflicts, and difficult times. The beauty they created often came from their struggles with human nature, not from the absence of struggle. As the days passed, more alien ships arrived. Word was spreading through the galaxy about the amazing humans who had achieved perfect peace. Delegates from dozens of species came to see this miracle for themselves. Each new group of aliens came with the same assumptions and left with the same wrong conclusions. They saw human kindness and assumed humans were naturally gentle. They saw human cooperation and assumed humans had eliminated competition. They saw human families and assumed humans had forgotten how to fight. The alien media began reporting on humanity as the greatest success story in galactic history. News spread to peaceful worlds throughout the galaxy about the species that had transformed from primitive warriors to perfect pacifists in just a few thousand years. Captain Morrison finally requested a private meeting with the alien leadership. He brought Dr. Carter, Dr. Johnson, and Professor Turner with him. They sat in a beautiful alien conference room with walls that showed peaceful scenes from across the galaxy. We appreciate your enthusiasm about humanity, Captain Morrison began carefully, but we think there might be some misunderstandings about our nature. Ambassador Cathara smiled warmly. Please, Captain, don't be modest. Your species has achieved something wonderful. You should be proud of how far you've come. Dr. Carter tried to explain. We haven't actually eliminated conflict from human society. We've just learned to manage it better. Of course, Commander Zix agreed. All species go through that transition phase. You started by managing violence, then gradually eliminated it completely. It's the natural progression. No matter what the humans said, the aliens interpreted their words through their own beliefs about how species should evolve. They were so certain that peace was the natural destination of all intelligent life that they couldn't imagine any other possibility. The meeting ended with the aliens more convinced than ever that humanity was ready to join their peaceful alliance. They began making arrangements for a grand ceremony to welcome Earth into the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. Sergeant Rodriguez walked back to the human quarters with her hands clenched into fists. Captain Morrison noticed her frustration and pulled her aside. I know this is difficult, Sergeant, he said quietly, but we need to handle this carefully. These aliens control advanced technology and represent dozens of species. We can't afford to make them angry. Rodriguez looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were probably hearing about the peaceful humans who had evolved beyond violence. The whole galaxy was getting the wrong idea about what humanity really was. Sir, she said finally, someone needs to tell them the truth before this goes too far. Dr. Carter had decided to try a more direct approach. He spent 2 days preparing a presentation that would show the aliens the reality of human conflict. He gathered historical footage, documentaries, and factual information about human wars and modern military forces. The presentation room was full of alien delegates who had come expecting another pleasant discussion about human culture. Ambassador Cathara sat in the front row with her usual calm smile. Behind her, representatives from 12 different peaceful species waited to learn more about their new human friends. Today I want to show you human history, Dr. Carter began. His voice was steady, but Captain Morrison could see the nervousness in his eyes. Not just the art and philosophy, but the conflicts that shaped our world. The screen lit up with black and white footage from World War II. Images of soldiers, tanks, and bombed cities filled the room. The aliens watched with polite interest, as if they were seeing ancient archaeological artifacts. Dr. Carter narrated carefully. This was a global conflict that involved most human nations. Millions of people died. It ended less than 80 years ago. Fascinating, Commander Zix commented. Your species certainly had a violent phase, but look how quickly you evolved beyond it. 80 years is nothing in galactic terms. The doctor showed them more recent conflicts: the Korean War, Vietnam, the Gulf War, operations in Afghanistan, and Iraq. He explained how human military forces still existed all over the world, with millions of people serving in armies and navies. Ambassador Cathara nodded with understanding sympathy. Yes, we can see that some regions of your world are still catching up. It's natural for a species to have uneven development during the transition period. Crystal Singer Tone played gentle, sad music with her gem body. How tragic that some humans haven't learned peace yet. But the important thing is that your advanced societies have clearly moved beyond such primitive behavior. Dr. Carter felt frustration building in his chest. The aliens were treating modern human conflicts like temporary problems that would naturally disappear. They couldn't understand that these weren't mistakes or failures of evolution, but ongoing parts of human society. These conflicts aren't exceptions, he tried to explain. Human nations still maintain large military forces. We still have weapons, strategies, and preparations for potential wars. Of course you do, Ambassador Vex agreed with flowing, light-filled gestures. Many species keep ceremonial military traditions for cultural reasons. It's like maintaining historical museums or performing ancient dances. Quite charming, really. The aliens began discussing among themselves, speaking in their own languages but using translation devices so the humans could understand. Their words made Dr. Carter's heart sink. The humans are being modest about their achievement, one alien scientist observed. They don't want to seem proud of conquering their violent nature. It shows admirable humility, another replied. Many species become arrogant when they reach the peaceful stage of development. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Baker had arrived from Earth the night before. He was a career military officer with gray hair, serious eyes, and ribbons on his uniform that told stories of service around the world. Captain Morrison had requested his presence, hoping that a higher-ranking military officer might be able to communicate the reality of human conflict. Colonel Baker stood up and asked permission to address the alien delegates. His voice carried the authority of decades spent leading soldiers in difficult situations. Distinguished guests, he began formally, I represent the United States military. We currently have personnel deployed in dozens of countries around the world. We maintain active combat units, nuclear weapons, and strategic planning for potential future conflicts. The aliens listened politely, but their expressions showed the same patient understanding they had shown Dr. Carter. They thought they were hearing about historical remnants or ceremonial traditions. Our military academies train thousands of new officers every year, Colonel Baker continued. We study tactics, strategy, and the art of war. This isn't history or ceremony. This is our present reality. Ambassador Cathara raised one graceful hand. Colonel Baker, we appreciate your dedication to maintaining these cultural traditions. Many peaceful species preserve their military heritage in similar ways. But surely you must realize that actual warfare between human nations is now impossible. Why would it be impossible? Colonel Baker asked directly. The alien delegates looked surprised by the question. Commander Zix answered as if explaining something obvious to a child. Because you've evolved beyond it, of course. Your philosophers teach love and peace. Your artists create beauty instead of weapons. Your families live in harmony. Advanced species simply don't engage in large-scale violence anymore. Colonel Baker looked around the room at the alien faces full of certainty and good intentions. These beings had created their own reality where intelligence naturally led to complete pacifism. They couldn't imagine that a species might be both intelligent and still capable of war. What if I told you that human nations still have disagreements that could potentially lead to conflict? He asked. The aliens made sympathetic sounds. Crystal Singer Tone's music became especially gentle and comforting. Oh, you poor humans, Ambassador Vex said with genuine kindness. You're still worried about your past nature, but you must have faith in your own evolution. Those old instincts can't possibly overcome your advanced civilization. Dr. Johnson tried to help by showing them current news footage. Images of protests, political debates, and international tensions filled the screen. She explained how human societies still struggled with different opinions about how to solve problems. See, she said hopefully. We haven't eliminated conflict. We've just learned to handle it through laws, elections, and negotiations instead of always fighting. Exactly, Ambassador Cathara exclaimed with delight. You've replaced violence with civilized discussion. That's the perfect definition of evolutionary success. The aliens completely missed the point. They saw human attempts to manage and control conflict as proof that humans had eliminated the possibility of conflict. They interpreted every example of human restraint as evidence that humans had lost the capacity for violence entirely. Professor Turner tried one more approach. He showed them human sports like boxing, football, and martial arts. He explained how humans enjoyed competitive activities that simulated conflict in safe environments. Wonderful! Commander Zix buzzed with excitement. You've channeled your old aggressive instincts into harmless entertainment. This is exactly what we mean by evolution. You've kept the energy but removed all the danger. Sergeant Rodriguez had been standing at the back of the room throughout the presentations. Captain Morrison noticed that her hands were clenched and her jaw was tight. She was watching their continued failure to communicate with growing frustration. The alien delegates began making their final preparations for humanity's integration into the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. They scheduled ceremonies, prepared welcome speeches, and planned to announce humanity's membership to the entire galaxy. This will be our greatest success story, Ambassador Cathara told her fellow delegates. A species that transformed from primitive warriors to perfect pacifists in just a few millennia. It proves that our philosophy is correct, and that all intelligent life naturally evolves toward peace. The aliens were so excited about their discovery that they had stopped listening to anything the humans actually said. Every attempt to correct their misunderstanding only confirmed what they already believed. They had created a version of humanity that fit their worldview, and nothing could convince them that this version was wrong. As the formal presentations ended and the aliens left to make their preparations, the humans gathered in their private quarters. The mood was tense and worried. "They're not going to listen to us," Dr. Carter said, slumping in his chair. "No matter what we show them or how we explain it, they interpret everything as proof that we're completely peaceful." "Colonel," Baker shook his head grimly, "they're about to announce to the entire galaxy that humans are harmless pacifists. Every aggressive species out there is going to hear that message." Captain Morrison looked around at his team. They had tried logic, evidence, and direct explanation. Nothing worked. The aliens were convinced they understood humanity better than humans understood themselves. Sergeant Rodriguez stepped forward. "Sir, request permission to address the Alien Council directly." Morrison looked at her carefully. "What do you have in mind, Sergeant?" Rodriguez's expression was serious and determined. "Someone needs to explain to them exactly what human warfare actually means. Not history lessons or philosophy. The real thing." The captain hesitated. Letting a Marine sergeant speak directly to the alien leadership was a big risk, but their gentle attempts at education had completely failed. "What makes you think you can get through to them when the rest of us couldn't?" he asked. Rodriguez looked out at the alien ship surrounding them, full of beings who thought humans were naturally harmless. "Because I'm going to tell them about war crimes, sir, and why we had to invent them." The Alien Council chamber was the most beautiful room on the ship. The walls showed peaceful scenes from dozens of worlds, and soft music played in the background. Representatives from 15 different species had gathered to hear humanity's final presentation before the integration ceremony. Sergeant Rodriguez walked to the center of the room wearing her dress blue uniform. Her ribbons and medals caught the soft light, each one representing service in places where peace had not been an option. The aliens looked at her with polite curiosity, expecting another pleasant discussion about human culture. Ambassador Cathara smiled warmly. "Sergeant Rodriguez, we're honored to hear from one of humanity's ceremonial warriors. Please share with us how your people have transformed their military traditions into peaceful cultural practices." Rodriguez stood at attention for a moment, looking around the room at the alien faces full of goodwill and complete misunderstanding. Captain Morrison sat in the back, ready to intervene if necessary. Colonel Baker watched with intense interest. Dr. Carter held his breath. "Thank you, Ambassador," Rodriguez began in a calm, professional voice. "You've studied our art, our philosophy, our families. You've seen our cities and schools. But you've missed something important about human nature." The aliens leaned forward, with interest. Crystal Singer Tone played gentle, encouraging music with her gem body. They thought they were about to hear some charming human custom they hadn't discovered yet. "You believe humans have evolved beyond violence," Rodriguez continued. "You think we've eliminated our capacity for war. You're wrong. We didn't eliminate violence. We learned to control it." Commander Zix's antennae twitched with confusion. "But Sergeant, your own leaders have shown us your peaceful society. Your philosophers teach love and understanding." "Yes, they do," Rodriguez agreed. "And do you know why those philosophers had to teach those lessons? Because love and understanding don't come naturally to humans. We have to work at being peaceful every single day." Ambassador Vex floated higher, his jellyfish-like form glowing with concern. "Surely you don't mean that humans are still capable of actual violence in the modern era?" Rodriguez looked directly at him. "Ambassador, I've served in 7 combat deployments. I've seen what humans do when peace breaks down. We're very, very good at violence. That's exactly why we created rules to limit it." The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't what they had expected to hear from humanity's military representative. "I want to talk to you about something called war crimes," Rodriguez continued. "These are rules that exist in human warfare. Rules about what soldiers can and cannot do, even when they're fighting enemies who want to kill them. The aliens looked puzzled. Ambassador Kethara spoke for all of them. Rules in warfare? But if your species has evolved beyond violence, why would you need such rules? Because we haven't evolved beyond violence, Rodriguez explained patiently. We've just gotten very good at controlling it. Let me give you some examples. She began to list the laws of war that humans had created. No targeting of civilians, no torture of prisoners, no use of chemical or biological weapons, no attacks on hospitals or schools, no execution of surrendering enemies. These sound like reasonable guidelines, Commander Zix observed. Surely any civilized being would follow such obvious moral principles. Rodriguez shook her head. You're missing the point, Commander. We didn't make these rules because they're obvious. We made them because humans were doing these things. All of these things. And we had to create laws to make ourselves stop. The room fell silent. The peaceful background music continued to play, but now it seemed strangely inappropriate. The alien delegate stared at Rodriguez with growing realization. You're saying, Ambassador Vex said slowly, that humans created rules against targeting civilians because humans were targeting civilians? Yes, Rodriguez replied simply. We made rules against torture because humans were torturing prisoners. We banned chemical weapons because humans were using them. Every rule in our laws of war exists because some human, somewhere, did exactly what the rule forbids. Crystal Singer Tone's music became discordant and worried. But why would intelligent beings do such terrible things? Because we're human, Rodriguez answered. We get angry. We want revenge. We're afraid of our enemies, and fear makes us cruel. We compete for resources, territory, and survival. These aren't bugs in human nature that we've fixed. They're features that we've learned to manage. The aliens began to understand what they had missed in all their cultural studies. Dr. Johnson had shown them human philosophy about peace, but she hadn't explained that those philosophies existed because humans struggled with not being peaceful. Professor Turner had shown them happy families, but hadn't mentioned that human families sometimes broke apart in anger and violence. Let me tell you about the Geneva Convention, Rodriguez continued. It's an agreement between human nations about how to treat prisoners of war. We had to create detailed rules about giving prisoners food, water, medical care, and protection from abuse. Well, of course, prisoners should be treated well, Ambassador Kethara said. Any decent being would do that naturally. No, Ambassador, they wouldn't, Rodriguez corrected gently. Humans don't do that naturally. When we capture someone who was trying to kill our friends, our natural instinct is to hurt them back. The Geneva Convention exists to override that natural instinct. She continued with more examples. Rules against using expanding bullets because they cause unnecessary suffering. Rules against attacking enemy medics because they're trying to save lives. Rules against destroying civilian infrastructure like power plants and water systems. Every one of these rules, Rodriguez explained, exists because humans were doing exactly what the rule prohibits. We didn't make them up as philosophical exercises. We made them because we needed to stop ourselves from doing things that came naturally to us in war. Commander Zix was beginning to understand. You're saying that human warfare is so extensive that you needed detailed regulations to limit it? I'm saying that humans are so good at warfare that we had to create international law to prevent ourselves from being too good at it, Rodriguez clarified. We didn't eliminate our capacity for violence. We just agreed on rules for when and how we use it. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. All their observations about human society suddenly made sense in a completely different way. Human cities were peaceful because humans chose to make them peaceful, not because humans were naturally peaceful. Human families were loving because humans worked at being loving, not because love came easily to them. Ambassador Vex's glowing form dimmed with realization. Your philosophers teach peace because humans struggle with being peaceful. Your artists create beauty because humans have seen ugliness, added Crystal Singer Tone, her music now somber and thoughtful. Your families cherish each other because Humans know how easily families can be destroyed, concluded Commander Zix. Rodriguez nodded. Now you're beginning to understand. Human civilization isn't evidence that we've evolved beyond our nature. It's evidence that we've learned to build systems that channel our nature in better directions. She looked around the room at the alien faces, no longer friendly and condescending, but worried and uncertain. We're not naturally peaceful. We're choosing to be peaceful with you. We're not harmless. We're choosing not to harm you. And there's a very big difference between those two things. The silence stretched for a long moment. Finally, Ambassador Cathara spoke in a voice much smaller than before. When you choose to be peaceful, she asked, what guarantees that you'll keep making that choice? Rodriguez considered the question seriously. Nothing guarantees it, Ambassador. That's what makes the choice meaningful. If we were naturally peaceful, choosing peace wouldn't matter. It's because we could choose violence that choosing peace actually means something. Captain Morrison stood up from his seat in the back of the room. The moment had come to deliver the final message that would either save this first contact situation or destroy it completely. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, he said formally. Humanity offers our friendship and alliance freely, but we offer it as what we are, not as what you hoped we might be. We are a species that knows exactly how to make war and chooses to make peace instead. The question now is whether that's the kind of friend you want to have. The silence in the council chamber stretched on for what felt like hours. The alien delegates sat motionless, their minds struggling to process everything they had just learned. The peaceful background music had stopped, leaving only the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Ambassador Cathara was the first to speak. Her voice was much quieter than before, without the confident certainty that had marked all her previous conversations. Sergeant Rodriguez, she said carefully, when you speak of human capacity for violence, are you referring to individual humans acting against your society's rules, or to your society itself? Rodriguez looked to Captain Morrison, who nodded, for her to continue. Both, Ambassador. Individual humans commit crimes that our societies punish, but human societies also organize violence on a massive scale when they believe it's necessary. Dr. Johnson stood up from her seat. She had spent weeks showing the aliens the beautiful side of human culture, but now she felt compelled to complete the picture they needed to understand. Our governments maintain military forces, she explained. Not for ceremony or tradition, but for actual use if diplomacy fails. Human nations prepare for the possibility of war even while working for peace. Commander Zix's antennae drooped with confusion. But why would advanced beings maintain such preparations? Surely rational discussion can solve any disagreement. Colonel, Baker answered this time. Because not all humans are always rational, Commander. And because sometimes different groups of humans want the same resources or territory. When that happens, talking doesn't always work. The aliens struggled to understand this concept. In their experience, intelligent species naturally grew out of competition and conflict. The idea that a space-faring civilization might still fight wars was deeply disturbing to their worldview. Let me explain something else, Rodriguez continued. Human children play games that simulate warfare. They pretend to be soldiers. They play with toy weapons. They compete in teams against other teams. These aren't lessons we teach them about history. These are natural expressions of human instincts. Crystal Singer Tone's gem body played a sad, confused melody. You allow your young to practice violence. We channel it into safe activities, Dr. Carter explained. Sports, games, competitions. We give human aggressive instincts positive outlets so they don't express themselves in destructive ways. Ambassador Vex floated lower, his light dimming. So, human entertainment, human sports, human games, all of these are methods of managing violent instincts rather than expressions of peaceful nature. Exactly, Professor Turner confirmed. Our most popular movies are about conflict and adventure. Our most celebrated stories involve heroes who overcome challenges through struggle. Even our love songs often describe the battle to win someone's heart. The alien delegates began whispering among themselves in their various languages. The translation devices picked up fragments of their conversations, and the humans could hear their growing alarm. They're more dangerous than we thought. one alien voice said. How can intelligence and aggression coexist like this? Asked another. What does this mean for the coalition? Wondered a third. Ambassador Cathara raised her hand for silence. When the room was quiet again, she looked directly at Captain Morrison. Captain, you said that humanity offers friendship as what you are, not as what we hoped you might be. Help us understand what that means in practical terms. Morrison stood and walked to the center of the room, taking his place beside Sergeant Rodriguez. It means that our friendship is a choice, not a nature. We could be your enemies if we wanted to be, but we choose to be your friends instead. And what would happen, Commander Zix asked carefully, if that choice changed? Then you would discover, Colonel Baker said grimly, that humans are much better at warfare than you currently realize. But you would also discover that we really don't want to be your enemies. The implications of this conversation were spreading through the alien ship like ripples in a pond. Other delegates were joining the meeting, summoned by emergency communications from their representatives in the chamber. A new alien entered the room, one the humans hadn't seen before. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shifted colors like an oil slick and eyes that held ancient wisdom. Ambassador Cathara stood and bowed respectfully. High Counselor Seren, Cathara said. I didn't expect you to join us. High Counselor Seren studied the humans with those shifting ancient eyes. When word spread that our newest potential members are not what they appear to be, I felt it necessary to evaluate the situation personally. She walked slowly around the group of humans, examining them like a scientist studying an unexpected specimen. Finally, she stopped in front of Rodriguez. Marine Sergeant, she said in a voice that carried the weight of centuries, you have shaken the foundation of everything we believed about intelligent species development. Do you understand the implications of what you've revealed? Rodriguez met her gaze steadily. I understand that we've challenged your assumptions, High Counselor. Sometimes assumptions need to be challenged. High Counselor Seren nodded slowly. Indeed they do. For 3,000 years, the Peaceful Worlds Coalition has operated under the belief that intelligence naturally leads to pacifism. We have built our entire galactic civilization on this principle. She turned to address all the alien delegates in the room. Now we discover a species that has achieved space travel, complex philosophy, and beautiful art while retaining their capacity for organized violence. This forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the nature of intelligence. The room erupted in discussion as aliens debated among themselves. Some wanted to reject humanity entirely, viewing them as too dangerous for the coalition. Others argued that humanity's choice to be peaceful was more valuable than natural pacifism. A few suggested that perhaps other species in the galaxy might also be more complex than previously assumed. Ambassador Cathara looked overwhelmed by the philosophical implications. If humans can be both intelligent and potentially violent, then perhaps we've misunderstood other species as well. Maybe we've been seeing what we wanted to see rather than what was actually there. Dr. Carter stepped forward. High Counselor, may I suggest something? Perhaps the galaxy is more complicated than either of our species realized. Maybe there's room for different types of civilizations to coexist peacefully. High Counselor Seren considered this carefully. You're proposing that the coalition expand its philosophy to include species who choose peace, rather than requiring species who have naturally evolved beyond conflict. I'm proposing that you judge us by our actions, not our nature, Captain Morrison said. We've come here in peace. We've shared our culture and knowledge freely. We've been honest about who and what we are. Isn't that the behavior of friends? The debate continued for hours. Some aliens argued that humanity was too unpredictable to trust. Others pointed out that humanity had chosen to reveal their true nature when they could have continued the deception. A few wondered if humanity's ability to choose peace might make them stronger allies than species who were peaceful by nature. Finally, High Counselor Seren called for order. We need time to consider this situation. Humanity has presented us with evidence that challenges our most fundamental beliefs about intelligent life. Such questions cannot be answered quickly. She turned to the human delegation. Captain Morrison, Sergeant Rodriguez, and all of you, you have given us much to think about. We ask for your patience while we evaluate not just humanity's place in our coalition, but the coalition's place in a galaxy that may be far more complex than we assumed. Ambassador Keithara approached the humans as the alien delegates began to file out. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. We were so eager to find proof of our beliefs that we ignored evidence that contradicted them. You tried to tell us the truth, and we refused to listen. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since the whole process began. No harm done, Ambassador. Sometimes the truth takes time to sink in. Will you wait for our decision? Keithara asked. The coalition needs time to debate whether we can accept members who choose peace rather than embody it naturally. Captain Morrison nodded. We'll wait. But while you're deciding whether you want us as friends, remember something important. What's that, Captain? Morrison looked out at the alien ship full of beings who were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. If the universe really does contain intelligent species who haven't evolved beyond violence, you're going to need friends who understand how to deal with that reality. And we're offering to be those friends. As the humans prepared to return to their ship, Rodriguez looked back at the alien delegates still debating in small groups. Some looked frightened, some looked fascinated, and some looked like their entire worldview had just been turned upside down. Think they'll figure it out, Captain? She asked. Morrison watched High Counselor Seren gesturing emphatically to a group of younger aliens who were clearly struggling with new concepts. I think, he said slowly, we just gave them the most important education they've ever received. Whether they like what they learned or not, they're never going to see the galaxy the same way again.